Why does music sometimes sound feminine and sometimes masculine? You know, when you're listening to music and it's soft, graceful, elegant, flowy, you might then describe it as feminine. And if you hear music that is powerful, strong, strident, you might call it masculine. Well, basically, it's the result of hundreds of years of gendered ideas and assumptions that have slowly been strengthened and reinforced across Western music tradition. And now these tropes have become so deeply ingrained and inherent to our musical language that we don't actually even actively consider them when we listen to a piece of music. So in this video, I thought I'd explain how a piece of music can evoke gender and how we've come to accept this musical language. Just in case you didn't come from my Instagram post and you've stumbled across this video, my name's Julia and I'm a composer based in Naarm, Melbourne. I've been making content about my life as a modern day composer and everything that comes with it, because contrary to popular belief, not all composers are dead European men. So this topic of feminine and masculine music was the focus of my master's research. So there's a lot that I wanted to talk about, but for your sake, I'm going to keep it quite concise today, and I'm also not going to get too technical. Because I just want to give more of an overview and just give the most interesting bits, in my opinion. First of all, I want to say that femininity and masculinity are socially constructed terms, and they describe enduring characteristics like traits, appearances, interests, behaviours that have traditionally been considered more typical of women and men. So even though they're biologically influenced, today we see the terms more as social constructs that are imposed by normative heterosexuality. Okay, so I'm going to go all VCE music here, but basically what makes up a piece is what we call the musical elements. So these are things like melody, harmony, the tempo. I've got a list here so I don't forget them. The timbre, the meter, the instrumentation, the range, dynamics, and that's what creates the overall mood. So when we talk about feminine music, we often think of music that is softer, more lyrical, quieter. It uses more of a high range, it's more lilting, gentle. If it's slow, it's longing and bittersweet, but if it's quick, it's sort of naive and playful. And then when we think of masculine music, it's pretty much the opposite of all those feminine traits. So it's loud, it's measured, it's strong, there's a lot of drums, there's brass like horns and trumpets. It's more regular with the rhythm and therefore more predictable. So let's go on a little journey back in time, because a lot of these ideas can be traced as early as ancient Greece. Philosophers and writers like Plato and Aristotle associated manliness with reason, restraint, and order, whereas femininity was thought to give rise to sensuality, excitement, passion, and madness. In the early Baroque period, if music was highly ornamented, it was therefore exciting and unstable and associated with females. And straightforward and orderly music was matched with manliness. In the 17th century, opera came along and brought character themes or leitmotifs. Feminine characters like the Queen of the Night and Carmen and Venus are this more dangerous, unstable, exotic brand of femininity. And the music accompanying them is highly chromatic and seductive, most likely to be in a minor key, but also unresolving and indecisive. There's this train of thought or element of feminine music which is more unstable, unpredictable, mystical, irrational. It's sort of like harking with the stereotype that women are emotional and emotionally driven, and that everything that a female or feminine person does is from their emotions. And some people find that unexplainable or difficult to understand, so it's therefore mystical and almost weird or different. The idea of being masculine is to be pragmatic, logical, direct, rigorous, strong, and powerful. Another element with the feminine and masculine difference in music that I find really interesting is actually how our traditional roles contribute to the instruments that we learnt to play. For example, the use of brass, like horns and trumpets and drums, were typically masculine because men were more likely to go hunting and be part of the military. Since drums require physical power to strike, it's more often that men would play them. And the same with larger instruments, like the tuba and the double bass. They're heavier to carry and therefore more suitable for men. And then since women were traditionally housebound, they were more likely to play things like the piano or the harp because those would be the instruments that were sitting in the home. There's also things like women were more likely to play the flute or the oboe or the violin just because they're higher pitched and sounding more like the female voice, and also because they're lighter instruments, easier to carry and therefore easier to play for people with smaller hands and smaller bodies. Feminine music can often also reflect a woman's role as mother, so harmonizing dissonance, uniting conflict. It's quieter in nature, it's more caring, it's gentle. So I hope all of that explains a little bit of how we've come to think of music as being gendered. And also, I'd like to say that music as an art form also mimics society and life in general. So as we come to think of gender as being more of a spectrum and something that is a construct, hopefully composers can now realize the stereotypical elements that they're putting into music, and they can change that. So if you're writing for a female character, the music doesn't have to be pretty and feminine and flowy, because female and feminine people can also be powerful and tough and resilient. And on the other side, masculine people can also be a little bit vulnerable sometimes. They can also be gentle. They can also show some feminine traits, because I don't think that we need to always stick to the black and white. So I hope there was something in there that was a little bit informative and something you can take from here. And I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Ciao! Bye!